Welcome to Packing It In, Creating a Plan to Quit Smoking. My name is Olson Jarvis. I'll be your speaker today. My background is I'm a respiratory therapist working as a chronic disease clinician at the My Health teams at River East and Transcona. My role is to work with patients whose providers have signed on to My Health team to improve their lives by assessing their respiratory issues. Smoking is one of those issues that are most difficult to deal with. According to the WHO, smoking is the number one preventable cause of death in the world and among the top 5 causes of premature death. Most people who quit um, usually do it by cold turkey, but this is the least successful way of quitting. Others use medications which help, but it doesn't last. The research shows that combining medications and counseling to be the best way to quit. So today, these are the topics I'm going to cover. I'm going to talk about the benefits of quitting. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I'm just going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about why people quit. I'm going to then talk about the 3 aspects of quitting, developing a plan, and then show you some resources. So we'll start off with the benefits of quitting and reducing your exposure to toxic chemicals. Basically, when we look at this slide, we see a cigarette that is made of 600 components. When it gets burned, it becomes 77,000 different chemicals, and 69 of those chemicals are considered carcinogenic, which is cancer causing, which means every time you inhale the smoke of a cigarette, you're inhaling 69 things that may cause cancer. The benefits of quitting extend to cigars and pipes. Basically, what you have to know is that a large cigar can have as much tobacco as a pack of cigarettes. They have the same 7,000 poisonous chemicals as cigarettes, and you are exposed to the same health risk as people who smoke cigarettes. But remember, it's never too late to quit. And that's what this graph by Fletcher is showing you. When we look at the red line, what the red line is showing are those people who have smoked all their lives. What Fletcher did was he did a breathing test and gathered people's FEV1. And when he looked at it over a lifetime, people who smoked all their lives dropped 75%, while people who never smoked, they only dropped 25%. But here's the interesting thing. The dotted line shows what happens to people when they quit. They branch off and follow the same decline as if they never smoked. It's at a lower level. However, what you'll find that the disability that comes with smoking all your lives definitely is delayed or maybe not even come at all. So the benefits of quitting, everyone knows. I'll just highlight a few. Less carbon monoxide, which is a chemical that is carried at the same spot as oxygen. And what happens is that reduces your ability to do endurance events. Also, at 1 year, your risk of a heart attack decreases by 50%. At 5 years, your risk of stroke is that of a non-smoker. And at 15 years, your heart attack risk is the same as a non-smoker. Many people are familiar with these benefits of quitting, so I'm not going to go deep into them. There's also some social benefits of quitting. You have better skin integrity, which means less wrinkles, less sagging of your skin. Teeth are more yellow. Everything smells better, not only just to you, but to others, whether it's your clothes, your hair, your breath, your car, your house. Living a longer life. People who don't smoke live on average 10 years longer than people who do smoke. So there's a 10-year shortage of life for people who do smoke. On average, having more money. It We'll see on the next slide, it costs thousands, tens of thousands of dollars just to smoke for 10 years, never mind the 20 or 30 years my patients come to me with. Um, Improves exercise performance because of less carbon monoxide. We mentioned food tasting better, hair more luminous. Fingers are not only whiter, but they have better blood flow, and which means that they're warmer. So when we look at the cost of smoking, right now, when we consider a pack of cigarettes is about $17.55, about $18, and we multiply a pack times 365 days, we get about $6,400. And over 10 years, that's $64,000. I've had patients tell me, well, I don't spend that much on cigarettes. So we do the calculation, even at a half a pack, you're still spending $32,000 over 10 years. So when people come, they want to quit, where we start? We start by getting together their why statement. Why statements are very important because they set the value as to why they want to quit. It helps set their values about why they want to quit. So this is a typical why statement where I want to, and most people who come to me, quit smoking because they're having some negative effects, like, for instance, cough, shortness of breath, inability to keep up with their grandkids. So so then I ask them, so what would happen if you quit? And the so what is what's important because that is the impact on their lives. So the impact is what is their why. I want to be around for my grandkids. Right? I don't want to get COPD. I don't want to get cancer. These are deep-seated whys that people have in order to quit smoking. So these are some truths or myths that people talk about with smoking, and we're going to talk about the answers to some of these coming up. The thing is that not only do people hear this from non-smoker, but from smokers, they hear them also from non-smokers. So it's very important to understand what these what the truth about these statements are. Before we talk about those truths, we have to understand the connection between nicotine and dopamine. Nicotine is the addictive substance in cigarette smoke. And the thing about the addictive substance is that it's got this unique property where the more you use it, the more you need to use it. So to get the same buzz, you actually need to have more nicotine, which is why people smoke more and keep smoking more. Now, the thing is, when you first have that cigarette, it's absorbed into the mouth. And the reaction when you get that first buzz is actually faster than most medications that are made to help people. Now, what happens is this dopamine makes people feel good and they mistake it as relaxation. But you don't need nicotine to get a dopamine release. Eating well and getting some sunlight will get you some natural dopamine release. Doing something you enjoy, watching sports, participating in physical activity are all things that can help raise your dopamine levels. Deep breathing and meditation has been shown to raise dopamine levels. In addition, helping people and learning something new are other ways to release dopamine. And these have all been researched. So, is it a habit or addiction? I have a habit of asking my patients this. And the thing to understand is what is an addiction and what is a habit. Most people answer both, that smoking is a habit and an addiction, and it is correct that it is both. When we look at the habit part of it, there's two parts to it. There is the automaticity as well as the repetition. So cigarette smoking meets both of those criteria. In addition, there's the habit part of it. the addiction part of it. And the addiction part of it is the fact that when you smoke a cigarette, you keep having to smoke it more and more. And when you stop, you actually have physiological side effects, right? When we look at the habit aspect of smoking, what we see is someone who does it repeatedly. And the example I usually give is using the example of brushing your teeth. When you go to brush your teeth, you grab your toothbrush, you grab your toothpaste, put your toothpaste on, you brush your teeth, right? That is what's called a habit loop, right? And we do a lot of these habit loops throughout the day, right? At the end of the habit loop is reward. The end of brushing your teeth is feeling fresh breath. So this fresh breath reinforces you doing it again. It's the same thing as the dopamine release you get from a cigarette. Dopamine is released, you get the reinforcement to do it again. So let's get back to our smoking truths, right? People smoke because they choose. A lot of people will say that, then when they try and stop, they can't. They have physiological feelings, shaky, they get sweaty, they get antsy, they get frustrated. And these things are relieved by a cigarette, right? It's not just an addiction, it's also a habit. And we just talked about that on the last slide. People talk about willpower, but willpower has not been shown to work in the research. If you're using willpower or trying to ignore or resist any habit, actually, you'll find it doesn't create new neural pathways. So it's very difficult to quit and stay quit. Being bored and lacking energy. Sometimes what we find is people don't have other things to do. Not only don't they have other things to do, they may be lacking energy because whenever they try and do something, they don't have the ability to keep up with others. And that's a lot of carbon monoxide. Relieve stress. This is one untruth or myth I get a lot. And the thing is, when you look at the research, what it shows is that when anyone has a cigarette, what the researchers have found is that your heart rate as well as your blood pressure goes up. So when we look at a substance that can cause relaxation, if it raises the blood pressure and raises your heart rate, we can't classify it as a relaxant. Concentrations improved is another thing that another myth that people talk about. When we look at the concentration myth, the research has shown the only thing that happens is when people who want a cigarette try to do a task, they can't do it or focus on it because they keep thinking about having a cigarette. It's not dissimilar to wanting to go to the bathroom and trying to do something, right? Once you've gone to the bathroom, once you've had that cigarette, come back, suddenly you're able to focus more, right? And we talked about the relaxation. We cannot support the relaxation um, myth because it hasn't been proven to be true because nicotine causes heart rate and blood pressure to go up. So we get to the point where we start to talk about the three aspects of quitting: the physical, the environmental, the social. These are the three aspects of quitting, and I would argue to stay quit. We start with the physical, and basically what the physical is we are genetically different. And being genetically different, we are have different receptors. Some of our receptors are more sensitive, some of our receptors are more numerous, and some of us can break down nicotine faster. All of these things, more receptors, more sensitive receptors and breaking down nicotine faster. All of these things make it more difficult to quit. So in order to maintain the levels of nicotine in the body, it is necessary for people with these genetic variations to smoke more. So to level the playing field, what we've done is we've actually um, have medications that we can offer clients. This is the nicotine replacement therapy, Champex, Zyban, and these three things we've shown to be very effective, and Champex is actually been shown to be the most effective at 6 months. There's been a lot of literature and media around Champex. However, there's a studies called the Eagles, and you can put that into your Google search, smoking and Eagles, and it'll show you that they did a big study, 8,000 people split into 4 groups, nicotine replacement therapy, Zyban, and Champex, and cold turkey. And what they found was that um, the incidence of psychosis events were the same amongst the different groups. The only difference was if someone had mental health issues, they needed to be followed closer by their doctor because they tended to have more outbursts. So if you have mental health issues or you're on medications for your mental health, you need to work closely with your physician in order to quit smoking. So we get to the point of e-cigarettes, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. There are some non-pharmacological alternatives that have been proposed, like hypnosis, meditation, and acupuncture. By themselves, they don't seem to, um, they haven't been well tested. Meditation has been tested and shown somewhat effective. However, they did not eliminate the use of medications. Um, However, they're somewhat harmless, and if people want to try them, they can go for it. Most of my patients who have tried them have told me they have gone with a very low intention of quitting. So this whole quitting thing is not passive. E-cigarettes. E-cigarettes have been proposed as an alternative to quitting. However, they have not shown the same, they're not shown to be better than Champex, nicotine replacement therapy, or Zyban. Some studies show they're a little bit better, some show they're a little bit worse. What we do see is people who try cigarettes end up in one of 4 groups. They end up vaping only, vaping and smoking, going back to smoking, but a minority quit. And those who quit have been shown to have taken on vaping with the intention of quitting. So for right now, because the safety has not been established, right? We're not recommending e-cigarettes as a first line, as at least as a first option. E-cigarettes, what they do is they heat the liquid, which produces carcinogens, and there are less carcinogens in e-cigarettes. So some people will say they're safer. The challenge is we do inhale it deeper. So we're going to know in the next 20 years on whether or not this e-cigarettes is harmful and how harmful they are. And it's unfortunate some people are going to end up reaping some of these. So right now we don't recommend e-cigarettes. They appear to be less harmful, but not harmless. When you do use nicotine replacement therapy, there are some side effects that may occur. And when you have these side effects, it sometimes will mean that your choice of strength of your nicotine replacement therapy is not is too strong for you. And a lot of these side effects can be found by doing a search. I'll just quickly go through some of them. Excess saliva, feeling nauseous, stomach ache. Another one people talk about a lot when it comes to the digestive system is hiccups. People report cough. Sometimes the cough is helpful though because it's getting rid of the tar in the lungs. Sometimes people report rapid breathing. When we look at the nervous system, eye irritation, headaches, dizziness, tremors, anxiety, and restlessness, all of these things are side effects that may be seen from too much nicotine. They also can be seen, especially the nervous system ones, from um, just not having nicotine, right? So it's sometimes hard to tell what are you experiencing? Are you experiencing side effects from not smoking or side effects from smoking? From the heart, you can notice increased heart rate as well as elevated blood pressure. These are also things you can notice um, from having a cigarette. So that's our first option, which is to address the physical. First aspect is addressing the physical. Our next aspect is the environment, addressing the environment. So when we think of the environment, what we're thinking of are exposure from shows, movies, media, tobacco sponsorship, maybe not in North America, but if you're watching foreign films or if you travel, exposure from family and friends who have come for a visit or where you go for a visit, location where you currently smoke, other substances such as alcohol or caffeine, from coffee, stresses in life. If you're having challenges at work, these are areas that can increase stress and you can associate with smoking. And also chronic health issues. Sometimes people with pain will smoke because they say it helps with the pain, but all it does, it gives you that feeling of euphoria. And because you have the feeling of euphoria, you tend to believe that it's relaxing. Um, so, in order to address the environment, we think of different strategies. For instance, spending more time where smoking is not allowed, deciding on where you currently smoke, like your car or your home or inside your home or your cabin. Decide on a plan for encountering people who are smoking. So when you go visit someone or someone comes to visit you and you smell cigarette, what's your plan? Deciding to spend more time or less time with people who do smoke or more time with people who don't smoke. Deciding on what to do with other substances. For instance, quitting alcohol or not smoking, not drinking alcohol, not smoking cannabis, reducing or eliminating coffee, changing your drink from coffee to water or some other type of. Um, we don't want to switch one addiction for another, so we don't recommend alcohol at this point. So looking for other drinks. Taking care of health issues. If you're having health issues, maybe going to the doctor or a specialist and getting some assistance so that you can get relief other than through cigarette smoking. So the other thing you can do with changing your environment is separating your cigarettes and lighter. The reason why that's important is because of the habit loop and everything in your environment. Changing your environment is way in which you break the habit loop. So the habit loop, this is from an author of the book called The Habit Loop, Charles Duhigg, and he proposes there's three parts to the habit loop. There is the trigger, the action, and the reward. And with these three processes, the key in it is to break this habit loop. If you can break the habit loop for things you don't want or encourage the habit loop for things you do want, you can successfully bring about change. So, what we want to do is to break the habit loop at the action. We can't control our triggers, but we control our actions. So, it is our response to um, the trigger that makes it um, that that causes us to have change. So we'll listen to this quick video by Joe Dispenza, and he'll talk more about habits and behaviors. So that was a brief explanation of the how people can break the habit loop, and how we're into our patterns, and these patterns are repeated over and over, just like having a cigarette. So we have an event happen. It could be stressful, or it could be having an alcohol drink or having a coffee, and our program is grab a cigarette. And what we want to do is change that. And by changing your environment, being with people who don't smoke, moving your cigarettes and lighter away from beside you. It's like going back to our example of brushing your teeth. If you go into the bathroom, grab your toothbrush, grab your toothpaste, and this time when you grab the toothpaste, it's empty. You now engage in thinking. Where is the toothpaste? Is it in the drawer? Is it underneath the cupboard? You get the toothpaste box and you look at the box, you don't even realize what color it is. You don't even know the name. You'd realize, oh, that's the name of the flavor. You may even say to yourself, I don't even like that flavor. So by breaking the habit loop, you become conscious of what is happening, and then it allows you to think and do something different. So our next step is our social emotional. These are the cigarettes we have because we're happy, sad, glad, mad, have reached a goal. So these are the cigarettes we're having because of that. And when we have these cigarettes, they are part of our program. So in order to deal with our social emotional connections with the cigarette, and it's not just a cigarette, it starts with the thought of having a cigarette. You know, something happens and it's I need a cigarette. So once you get to that point, that's when we have to deal with our behavior. And what we have to do is deal with behavior change. So, how do we do that? There are a number of ways, too numerous to mention. These are just 8 examples um, of options that you can use. And these are from a website called monday.com. And what they're basically showing is that there's lots of options. Now, many people will tell me, well, I just smoke because I want to smoke. They said that they don't have um, any precursors or behaviors that occur before smoking. So so what happens is they end up they end up having to do something called a craving tracking. Some people know it as pack tracking, but I don't usually use it as pack tracking because with pack tracking, it assumes that you had a smoke. Whereas I want you to track your cravings because you want to connect your thoughts and feelings around a craving, right? So that you eventually don't smoke. If you remember the habit loop, it starts with a trigger, and a trigger is usually some sort of a craving. So if you know that trigger, the next step is to change your behavior. So in order to do pack tracking, you need to get a sheet, and many of these are available on the internet. Track where you are when you have a craving. Who are you with? When did it happen? What was happening? Describe the mood. Rate it, good or bad. How did you beat your craving? What did you do to avoid the cigarette, right? If you were successful. So now that you have the ingredients for a habit loop, we can now create one. So the first thing is changing your environment, right? Where you're gonna store your cigarettes, and we suggest you separate your cigarettes and lighter. Biological. What medications are you going to use? Which ones are you going to use? What strength? Right? You can get help from your smoking cessation um, counselor, coach, or pharmacist, doctor, respiratory therapist, or allied health professional. You then need to have behavior that you're going to substitute, because once you have changed your environment, have that patch on, and you get that craving, you need a new behavior to replace smoking. If you smoke a pack a day, at 5 minutes per cigarette, you're going to have an extra 100 minutes a day to do something. Then, once you've done your new behavior, you want to have a way of celebrating. Now, when you celebrate, you should include one of your five senses or two of them, whether it's smelling something, you know, jumping up and down, doing a little dance, waving your hands in the air, right? These are all ways of celebrating, and everyone should have a way of celebrating, right? And that's how you create your new routine. There are some things that can increase your success. Um, Using mindfulness. And mindfulness, it doesn't have to be long, it can be very quick, and it doesn't have to be an unusual step of groups of things that you do. What it is being in the moment, and you acknowledge what's happening, allow it to happen, comfort yourself. That's just mindfulness. Reducing other substance use. We talked about this earlier. Stopping alcohol, getting rid of alcohol, getting rid of cannabis, even on a temporary basis, will help you be successful at 6 months. Um, Reducing or eliminating coffee, drinking more water, exercising more. Um, there's a great program called Run to Quit. People who participate in it have a high likelihood of quitting. Eating more vegetables. There's no cause and effect, but there's a strong association. People who eat more vegetables tend to be quit at 6 months. So this is your habit loop. You acknowledge the craving, because we don't want to fight it, ignore it, or use willpower. We want to acknowledge it. It sounds kind of like opposite of what we've been told, but the research is very clear on this. Allow your body to experience the craving, right? All the side effects, like you may be experiencing frustration or shakiness. And what happens, what most people have told me when they quit, is the more they allow these things to happen, the less frequent and less intense they happen. Then, once you acknowledge, allow, and comfort yourself, then go perform your new activity that you have. Once you've performed your new activity, celebrate. Celebrate having done the activity, but not missing a cigarette. Okay? Now, when you do quit completely, when you go that first 24 hours without smoking, you may um, have some withdrawal. When you have the withdrawal, there's some tips for dealing with it. Now, the key thing to know is not everyone gets withdrawal. That's why it's good to do a trial of 24 hours. You may find that all the reports of people getting withdrawal, you don't get it, right? The other thing is the nicotine replacement therapy, Champix and Zyban can reduce or eliminate withdrawal. So with thirst, giving drinking water to help flush the toxins because nicotine is water soluble and it flushes through your system faster if you drink more water. Hunger, having healthy alternatives available because cigarettes are actually it's nicotine is an appetite suppressant. Cough can be normal and it goes away. It can be a few weeks to a few months, but it will go away. Mood swings, that is due to the lower dopamine levels. And again, if you engage in mindfulness and allow, acknowledge and allow these feelings to exist, you'll find that, at least what I've been told, is that over time they become less frequent and less intense. Just a reminder, reduce your coffee. Um, Nicotine causes caffeine to break down faster in the body, so it's very important to reduce your nicotine. So then it comes to um, having a slip or relapse. So you've quit completely, and now you've picked up one cigarette. Obviously, the first thing, put it down right away. As soon as you're conscious of it, put it down. Now, what has happened is this situation has actually confirmed to people that they want to quit because what they've found is that cigarettes actually smell awful, right? This is where people have quit for a day or more, and for some reason they feel like they want that. They realize they don't want it. They also may get some side effects of having too much nicotine. So put it down, remove yourself from the situation, go back to your quit plan. Practice the acknowledge and allow and comfort sequence. Review your behavior change options. For instance, coloring or whatever behavior you decided to do. Maybe it's going for a walk, right? Doing some exercise. These things can help. And um, if you have a slip, which is having one cigarette, or if you have a relapse, don't let this define you. Get back on track. Have a support person that you can text who can remind you. And also think about your why statement. Why are you quitting? Think about the values. Is is my value of wanting to be around for my grandkids or not wanting to have cancer, or maybe I have a value around um, wanting to save money to go somewhere or to do something or to buy something. If that becomes more important than having a cigarette, then maybe that's the choice you'll make. The key is to bring it to mind. So now we come to the quit plan. We have all the ingredients and we can now do the quit plan. First, we have to decide on the why statement. We talked about the why statement, having your why statement. Then you want to create your habit loop, right? How am I going to break my habit loop and create a new one? Typically, it's from changes in the environment, right? Changes in the environment, especially removing cigarettes and lighter from your environment, right? Once you've broken your habit loop, getting into some mindfulness and having a new behavior. Then the last part of your quit plan is to set a date where you will start to quit. There are many resources out there that can help you. There are smoking cessation apps, websites. There's the Smokers Helpline, Commit to Quit, as well as um, one-to-one follow-ups for those people whose doctor's offices have a, a smoking cessation counselor available or coach. There's lots of apps that are available. Some are only available on Apple, some are only available on Android. So we can do that. There are many websites. Some people may not have phones, so they may have a computer. They can go into the website, or even if you don't have a computer or a phone, you can go print these off or get a friend to print them off or a family member. We also have group programs like this one, Packing It In. We're doing it January, February, March of 2021. There is the Smokers Helpline for Manitoba. There is smoking cessation counseling or coaching, one-to-one if you have availability of the My Health team. Well, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to listen. Hopefully, you found something in this presentation that can help you move towards your goal of quitting. We're interested in your feedback on this presentation, so click on the link below this video for a short survey. For information on other programs, you can um, see the Health Management Group Programs Guide at wrha.mb.ca groups. If you have questions about anything discussed, please see the guide for live sessions to attend. Contact the health professional that referred you to this program. You can also ask questions of your doctor or other healthcare providers.